What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at all of the companions available in the alpha for Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, which is launching today, the alpha that is, meaning that the people who have alpha access via supporting the game with a dev bundle can access the alpha, and I believe they've invited some media to it as I got early access to it a little early, though I did also buy the dev bundle. And before we dive in too deep here, I am making a lot of videos going live at the same time today, specifically for this, which include an overview of the alpha itself, the companions of course, a video about space exploration and the spaceship combat, as well as a combat overview. But obviously we're here to talk about the companions, so let's do just that. Several of the companions we already knew about and I've talked about previously. We mostly know who these companions are, outside of one or two that we haven't really discussed on the channel previously, and obviously we learn a little bit more about them with this being the alpha and actually being able to interact with their characters in game. So a few of these are definitely repeats. That said though, we also aren't seeing everyone that's available. We know there's going to be a Space Wolf who is not in here, for instance. But with no further ado, let's actually dive into this thing. First up, we have Abelard. This is our Seneschal. He will be acting as our right hand to our Rogue Trader Empire. If you're unaware, we'll be playing a Rogue Trader who inherits an empire from our predecessor, a distant family member. Once our predecessor dies and we take over, Abelard stays by our side to help us guide the trade empire, as he is very dedicated to it. Your predecessor, Theodora, came into contact with him when he was working with the Imperial Navy. They sort of hit it off and he joined the Rogue Trader's crew, becoming somewhat of a minor noble in the process. Furthermore, it's definitely implied that his relationship with Theodora was more romantic in an unofficial capacity. It's never directly stated, but it's definitely implied to have been that way. And given how close he was to Theodora and the trade empire, he's very dedicated and loyal to making sure it thrives. Though he is kind of stuck in his ways and believes there's a certain way to do that, which may be at odds with yours. In combat, he primarily focuses on melee while also being a tank. He can use a little bit of ranged weaponry, but his best use case is definitely up in the front lines taking damage. He can mitigate a lot of it with his abilities, as well as deal a ton of damage thanks to his strength. Next up on our list, we have Argenta, our Sister of Battle companion, a member of the Adepta Sororitas. Or to put it in more simple terms that everyone enjoys, she's a nun with a gun. As a child, she was involved in a battle, during which she saw the sign of the Emperor, the double-headed Aquila, which she took as a divine symbol to dedicate her life to the Emperor, and thus she grew up as an orphan of military officers under strict tutelage before she was given to the Adepta Sororitas to train further to become a Sister of Battle. She was on an assignment to the Coronis Expanse, the area where the game takes place, specifically to a place called Footfall, which acts as sort of a main hub, and she was sent here effectively to guard a reliquary, or a holy object. That said, the group she was supposed to be joining died before she got there, so when she showed up, no one was really expecting her or knew what she was supposed to do. And due to some things that happened, they kind of no longer really needed her there, which meant her life kind of devolved into meaningless busy work, which for a Sister of Battle who craves battle wasn't really working. So she ultimately winds up joining your crew in an attempt to find that battle and thus maintain her necessity to the Emperor, if you will. She sees it as a very personal goal to fight the Emperor's enemies, and she's not getting that in Footfall. But in battle, she specializes in ranged weaponry as well as flamethrowers, and she is very, very good at it. In the alpha, she is definitely one of the stronger companions thanks to a heroic ability that lets her take 5 or 6 actions in a single turn, which can cause her to just wipe the floor with a ton of enemies. Pretty cool companion overall though. Next up, we have Heinrix, I believe is how it's pronounced, and he is an Inquisition interrogator. Moreover, he's a sanctioned psyker. Sanctioned psykers are very, very rare. Most psykers in the Imperium are put to death by being sacrificed to the Emperor. However, if you're 1 in a billion, you might be chosen for training to become a sanctioned psyker. And this was the path that was chosen for Heinrix, and the organization he's part of, the Inquisition, is focused on rooting out heresy. The Inquisition and Rogue Traders have a long history of butting heads, as the Inquisition feel the lifestyle of Rogue Traders inherently leads to heresy, as it is certainly a tempting option for people finally granted freedom, as opposed to the oppression of the Imperium. Originally, he joined your crew for passage to Footfall, again the sort of central hub. However, after arriving and speaking to the appropriate people, his Lord Inquisitor, probably one of the only people in the Imperium who could force a Rogue Trader to do much of anything, all but demands that he tag along with your crew for the time being, and obviously it evolves from there, but that's kind of the general gist. I say this to tell you though, much like with Argenta, they respect your authority because rogue traders have a warrant of trade. Inquisitors, Sisters of Battle, etc., they tend to be zealots who will kill people and put an end to heresy at every opportunity. However, as a rogue trader, you are given strict legal permission to deal with the Xenos races and things that would be considered immediate heresy for anyone else. As such, while they are definitely watching your decisions, you are still given a ton of leeway to run your business how you see fit, though there are definitely people watching you, is one way to put it. Now, as for Heinrix himself, he is a very sort of gish character. He's a psyker, so he has a lot of psychic abilities. He is also a healer. He can heal with his psychic abilities, as well as deal some damage, but he's also a very effective melee fighter and a ranged character. He's very much so a jack of all trades, and he's probably not the best at any one of them, but he's above average at all of them. But that brings us to Idira, kind of the opposite of Heinrix. She is a non-sanctioned psyker, which is to say she is illegal. Theoretically, she should be killed immediately by the people you are also working with. But again, your status as a rogue trader and your right to deal with people as you see fit is mostly what's keeping this from happening. But Idira served your predecessor Theodora as well. She was a psyker who rose to prominence on a sort of forgotten world of the Imperium thanks to her divination ability. She is able to divine future events, which is always an in-demand ability for people in power, and she often struggles to contain her powers, as the main threat of a psyker, especially an unsanctioned one, is that they draw in the warp, and if they succumb to the chaos and the warp, they could bring death to entire planets, so they're often put to death. This is the thing that Idira represents. She is a threat, and that's why some of your other companions want her dead. She's also struggling with a lot of grief thanks to the death of Theodora, and a lot of her story revolves around her struggle to maintain her sanity in the face of her psychic ability. And you can choose to help or have her executed for this. It's worth mentioning that this is an RPG, and exactly what happens to any of these companions is kind of up to you. But that brings us to Pasqal, a tech priest, a representative of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and furthermore, a high-ranking one at that. He is a Magos of the Explorators, which means he searches for advanced technology, and after discovering a sort of schism within the Adeptus Mechanicus, he's searching for something that his long-lost master pointed him to. His story is kind of vague and aloof, but tech priests maintain machinery and help keep your ship running, things like that, as the routine maintenance of machines that we would consider today is a sort of holy right to them, and they see it as communing with machine spirits. But in battle, he is a tank capable of also providing support, as well as strong melee attacks. He does have a few healing abilities, but mostly he is a damage sponge who can also buff your team a little bit. And that brings us to Cassia, a navigator. Navigators are crucial for space navigation. It literally is not possible without them. They are technically mutants who have a third eye that allows them to traverse the warp safely, unlike most other people, for instance a psyker. But that's why she looks so very, very strange. She lived a very sheltered life under her noble family, as navigators, due to their crucial position in the Imperium, are typically speaking nobles. Cassia's background and story is a little vague. We don't get a ton of hints about it, but she has a lot of very odd things going on with her. For starters, she sees with her third eye as sort of extreme colors. According to her, everyone sees the warp a little differently when it comes to navigators. Her predecessor thought of it like walking through the woods, whereas she sees it like colors and paintings. So a lot of her speech kind of revolves around that, and she does not have full control over her powers, and people do very strange things around her without her necessarily intending them to. And she's involved in a lot of very odd events around your ship, and a lot of her story seems to revolve around controlling her abilities as a navigator. In combat, though, she performs the role of a leader. She's able to give commands to other characters, buffing them, strengthening them, giving them extra hit chance, that kind of thing, allowing them to take extra turns or move farther. She also uses ranged weaponry, though she's not terribly good at it, and like all navigators, she can make use of her third eye to use massive AoEs to inflict some real damage. But those are the companions you're going to start the alpha with, and then as the alpha progresses, there are two more that you can get your hands on. These are Jay and Yrilet. Yrilet is our Eldari Ranger companion. I would love to give you info about her backstory, but she is a little more tied to the main story than the other ones, or at least one part of the main story early on, but she's involved in a main story quest that I would rather not spoil. But you'll come in contact with her as part of the main story, and can then choose to deal with her and her Xenos ways how you see fit. But she's an Eldari Ranger who has chosen the path of the outcast, and as a Ranger, she primarily focuses on heavy range damage with a sniper rifle. She is very good at dealing a lot of damage to one single enemy. And then last but not least, we have Jay, who is the sort of non-official version of you, a rogue trader. Jay is a member of the black market in Footfall, and she's done very well for herself, amassing riches and wealth. And as far as individual citizens of the Imperium goes, she's doing quite well for herself. However, we meet her when she's encountering a bit of a rough spot and could use your help, though she doesn't know you're a rogue trader potentially at the time, to deal with it and resolve it. And in doing so, she'll accompany you on your ventures and help you along with knowledge of local dealings, the black market, etc. But to put it very simple, she's a space pirate. Much in the way that rogue traders are merchants who work on growing vast merchant networks and empires within the Imperium, or more specifically outside the borders of the Imperium for the Imperium, Jay is just kind of your everyday run-of-the-mill smuggler, which I think is what I liked about it the most, because she kind of represents what your character might be if you weren't officially a rogue trader with your warrant of trade. Overall, though, she's a fun space pirate who has a pretty fun personality. In combat, she's a little lackluster in my opinion, a little more basic than a lot of your other companions who have highly specialized roles, but while I didn't find her very fun in combat, she is probably my favorite character as a character. But that, guys, is going to be all of the characters that are available in the Rogue Trader Alpha. Now, before I leave you, I do want to mention one more thing. As I was going through this list, if you're familiar with Warhammer 40k at all, you might have been asking yourself, how do any of these characters get along? Well, here's the thing. Sometimes they don't. This is an RPG. Resolving those situations and how you resolve them as a rogue trader with the legal authority to do a great many things is largely up to you. You gotta remember, all of these people are on your ship where your word is law. In several instances with these characters, you can kill them or kick them off your ship basically at any time. In some cases, they'll get into fights, and in at least one instance, I had to stop one of them from killing the other one. Or, just let it happen if you want to roleplay that as well. My point is, you have options. So while it might seem like none of these people would get along, remember that that's the roleplay here. You're dealing with that situation. And if you really want to, you can just let them tear each other apart and be a purge the heretic kind of guy. But that's all I've got for you guys today. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.